If I defend myself, I'm attacked. That's pretty awesome kind of thing to say to the world. The world believes exactly the opposite. So that really sounds like insanity to the world. It believes that if it doesn't defend itself, it's attacked. If you want a really good example of upside down thinking, we take it to the extreme where the world says that attack is the best form of defense. And how insane is that? And that is what the world believes. And the fact is that we do believe that ourselves to some degree, to the degree that we're not completely awake. So it believes that it's safe by defending. And all its systems are geared to that. Its judicial system, its political system, its defense system, its medical system. Everything is geared to defense, and it sees threat at every corner. And round the corner it sees death. As Jesus says in the Course, it's a very, very dangerous place, this. Vengeful. And yes, to some degree, we believe that too, because this conditioning that has taken place has been taking place since the beginning of time. So we need to be kind to ourselves in accepting that we have come to a different place, a different understanding, a true realization that that doesn't work. It's not difficult to see. Look around. You see that the defenses of this world mean danger and threat. So we have to be kind to ourselves and say it takes a little bit of time to unravel that conditioning. But we don't need to stay in the lie. We need to escape from that lie by transcending and allowing ourselves to recognize that in our defenselessness, our safety lies. Why is that? Why is it that in my defenselessness, my safety lies? My safety lies in my defenselessness because in the experience, not just the words, not the concept, but in the actual experience of defenselessness, it's possible to actually allow yourself to see that you're not as vulnerable as you thought. You're invulnerable because you're not protecting what it is that is weak and vulnerable, which is the body. And when you fail to protect what is weak and vulnerable, you align yourself, you identify yourself with that which is strong and invulnerable, which is spirit, and which is what you are. So it's a question of identification. We identify with what it is that is strong and invulnerable, unassailable, unhurtable, incorruptible spirit. And we do that by the demonstration. And by demonstration, I mean we demonstrate that to ourselves. We demonstrate that if I let myself go, if I remain in an unprotected openness to what it is that's taking place, I will discover this spiritual reality that I am, this invulnerability. Now, as teachers of God, we need to teach that to ourselves to overcome this conditioning, and we need to teach it to others, to our brothers who are waiting for that message. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by allowing ourselves to recognize that an attack is a call for help. A seeming attack is a call for help. There's no attack. There is no attack. Because minds are joined, and minds cannot therefore attack. Only the body attacks. And the body isn't real, it's an illusion. And so if the body is an illusion, then the attack itself must be an illusion. And we begin to see that only through the demonstration and the subsequent experience that takes place in our defenselessness. So what actually happens? What is the experience that takes place that allows us to see that, to know that, to realize it? Well, in the exercises, in the Course in Miracles, if we follow them closely, and we find ourselves in a situation where it appears that we're being attacked, it appears that something's going on that we don't like, but we actually interpret it as a call for help, and we allow ourselves to be in that place of defenselessness, which means just simply a place of non-reactivity. I need do nothing. What actually happens is there can be a real face-off with the ego. The ego needs to defend itself. The ego needs to attack. It needs to establish its authority. And so it's always going to use the opportunities as much as it can to demonstrate that it's separate. Well, when you don't defend yourself, you deny that separation. And that face-off will be an experience of some, well, you know, right at the beginning, sometimes it can be a really joyous experience. And there will be laughter at the realization that you're safe. These are gifts that are given by grace and really, really beautiful. But unfortunately, they don't really last very long because we have to go into the depth of it. We have to truly integrate all this conditioning, and it takes a while. And so we can come to that place eventually where that is solid ground. And we face every situation which appears to be an attack as a call for help and respond to it integrally. But that's your practice. So in that experience where there is this face-off, you're going to feel the pain, you're going to feel the difficulty, you're going to actually find yourself, well, you need trust, you need faith, you need willingness, you need a certain amount of courage to stand your ground and allow yourself to see that in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And in the way that you need to see that happen is to actually acknowledge that this in me, this discomfort, this pain, that which suffers is not part of me. But Jesus calls this in the Course as you and the ego. This is the parting of you and the ego. You part in ways with the ego. You say, no, that's not what I am. I feel it, yes, but that's not what I am. And so you're able to stand in that discomfort without reaction. And that non-reaction, that stillness that says, I need do nothing, I don't need to defend myself, that's the true response. That's the love. You see, you're experiencing a call for love, and that is the love. It's not something you do, and it's not something you say, and it's not something you think. It's love itself. And it's beautiful. And it's awakening. And it's healing. Not all calls for help are necessarily seen as an assault. Although they are, actually. Because you can have a situation where someone's calling for help, but they're not attacking you or not seeming to attack you, but they're in pain. And they're suffering. And they want you to support them in that pain and suffering. And the temptation is to fall into the trap of identifying with the pain and suffering. That's the attack. It's an invitation. It's a temptation. You empathize with your brother, but not with the pain and the suffering. You empathize with your brother's reality. is sinlessness. And that's your love. In what I just described as a seeming attack, when a brother is calling for help and you respond accordingly, you respond with love, you respond integrously, that's like a primary wave that takes place. And there's a secondary wave that also comes along when you've succeeded in responding the way that you know is true. And then following that, there could be, and often is, a temptation to think about what happened. And the ego's temptation is to say to you, now, that was not very good. And, you know, you suffered unnecessarily. And there's a resentment that is offered to you. In other words, you're tempted to have a grievance. And what is happening there is you're experiencing the effect on your pride. And this is another opportunity to heal this sense of separation from God, because it really is pride. And so you don't fall into that. What you do is you offer a blessing to your brother. And you push aside any temptation to grieve. And so you answer the call. And that's healing. And it heals you and it heals your brother. And it's a true communication. And that's how you deal with the idea of defenselessness in your relationships, in your holy relationships, your relationships with your brother. But what about your relationship with the world? The world that is absolutely obsessed with defense and self-protection. Not by telling it, and neither by demonstrating, because the demonstration can be seen as arrogance, it can be seen as irresponsibility, and you could be crucified accordingly. Now, we've had the last useless sacrifice, and God doesn't want martyrs. So you don't need to tell the world, and you don't need to demonstrate to the world, but you need to demonstrate to yourself. When the world is throwing all this stuff at you, of pain and suffering and death and sin, your response is to recognize that illusions must be brought to the truth. And so you transcend sin and pain and suffering. You transcend all of that stuff of the world by recognizing and accepting that there is no death. And you deny death in all its forms, its pain, its loss, its lacks, its limitations. All forms of suffering are a denial of the truth of what it is that is actually here and now, which is God's love. And that's how you transcend. You bring the illusion to the truth of what it is that you are as God's Holy Son. And you fulfill your function. And your function is forgiveness. And you fulfill your function with the miracle. You ask for the miracle to see things the way they really are and not as they appear to be, which is all the suffering. We're saviors of the world. And to bring salvation to the world, we have to see that everything that is amiss, everything that seems to be the effect of sin, where there seems to be death, This is all illusion. And the only thing that is true is the love of God in a perfect spiritual universe.